my sister stood up to give a speech during my baby shower, then lied to everyone that I was cheating on my husband, completing her lie with a detailed IG post about me, confessing. She then looked at me with crocodile tears, said, "I just couldn't watch you betray him anymore." When I was 8, Jess screamed bloody murder at my birthday party because she wanted to blow out my candles. My parents made me watch my 6-year-old sister make a wish on my birthday cake while all my friends sang to her. That was when I had my first panic attack, but nobody noticed because Jess had moved on to opening my presents. She kept 3 of them, and my parents said sharing was caring. Now at 28, I manage my anxiety with therapy and medication, but Jess still finds ways to twist the knife. The second I said Marshall proposed, she tilted her head and said, "Are you really ready for marriage though? You barely know him after only 2 years." My parents nodded as if she'd revealed deep wisdom. Marshall teaches special needs kids and volunteers at shelters. But when my father heard middle school teacher, his face fell. He said, "Well, at least he's stable," in that tone reserved for disappointments. Before I could defend the man I love, Jess had volunteered as maid of honor and started her destruction campaign disguised as help. She was rude to a pastor and got us banned from the church where my grandparents married. When I confronted her, she got tears in her eyes and said, "I'm so sorry. I'm overwhelmed trying to make everything perfect for you." My parents took her side, telling me I was being ungrateful and paranoid. At dress shopping, I found this vintage lace gown that made me feel beautiful for the first time in years. Jess circled me like a predator and said, "It's so perfectly you, safe and predictable. Some brides want to be memorable, but this is nice too." I watched myself shrink in the mirror as she demolished my confidence with surgical precision. The catering disaster was attempted murder disguised as an accident. She changed our hors d'oeuvres menu to shellfish without asking, even though Marshall carries an EpiPen for severe allergies. At our tasting, his throat started closing and we raced to the emergency room. While my fiancé fought to breathe, Jess kept repeating, "Oh God, I totally forgot about his allergy." But I remembered her asking about it 2 weeks earlier. She had literally tried to call my future husband. Then came the flower incident. The morning of my wedding, Jess called sobbing about a terrible mix-up. The florist had delivered funeral arrangements instead of bridal bouquets. When I called them, they seemed confused and said they were sure the order was placed for a woman named Megan's funeral. The replacement flowers cost $800, and when I accused Jess of sabotage, she collapsed into hysterics. My parents called me cruel and suggested I get my medication adjusted. My wedding day was psychological torture. During her maid of honor speech, Jess looked into my eyes and said, "Here's to Megan, finally finding someone who might actually stick around this time," referencing my ex who cheated. Then she spilled red wine across my dress during photos, claiming she tripped. While I scrubbed stains, she entertained Marshall's family with stories about my panic attacks and self-harm history. When I had a breakdown, my parents blamed me for ruining my own wedding. That night, I made a decision that saved my sanity. I blocked Jess and told my parents I was done. Marshall and I moved to Oregon, where for 6 months I remembered what happiness felt like. I got promoted to senior designer, my panic attacks stopped, and we started trying for a baby. Then Dad's heart attack dragged me back into hell. I found Jess living at the hospital looking destroyed. Her husband had left her for his assistant and taken half her money. For the first time ever, she seemed genuinely vulnerable. During Dad's recovery, she apologized with tears, saying she'd been jealous of my happiness and inner peace. She begged for a second chance to be the sister I deserved. Against every instinct, I let her back in. When I told her I was pregnant, she sobbed with joy and begged to throw my baby shower to make up for ruining my wedding. I said yes and watched her plan the perfect event. 40 guests, including Marshall's principal and my boss. She gave this beautiful speech about sisterhood and protecting family. I actually felt grateful to have my sister back. Then she detonated the nuclear bomb she'd been building for months. She held up her phone and said she had one last surprise for everyone. My phone started buzzing and my friend Ashley grabbed me looking sick. Jess had posted a detailed confession on Instagram claiming I'd been having an affair with her ex-husband and was carrying his baby instead of Marshall's. She'd included screenshots of fake text conversations. I turned around to see Jess surrounded by guests with mascara streaming down her face, telling them I'd confessed everything weeks ago and begged her to keep my shameful secret. She was saying she couldn't watch my husband get betrayed anymore. My vision tunneled as the full scope hit me. She'd planned this public execution in advance and used my unborn baby as a weapon. As the worst panic attack of my life seized my chest, Marshall walked over to me, looking shattered. He stood there staring between me, hyperventilating on the floor, and Jess, still performing for the remaining guests. My phone kept buzzing with notifications as more people saw the posts. Marshall's hand trembled as he pulled out his own phone, scrolling through the fabricated evidence. The principal from his school whispered something to another parent before quietly leaving. My boss stood frozen near the gift table, her expression unreadable. Ashley knelt beside me, rubbing my back as I struggled to breathe. She held up her phone, showing me the timestamps on Jess's posts. They'd been scheduled to go live at exactly 3:15 p.m., right in the middle of the shower. The photos of the fake text messages were too perfect, too polished. Ashley zoomed in on one, pointing at the editing artifacts around the edges. Marshall's mother approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. She spoke quietly, but I caught fragments about taking some time and thinking things through. His face crumpled as more family members gathered around him, all shooting glances between him and Jess. I forced myself to stand, legs shaking. The room spun as I tried to form words, but my throat felt like it was closing. Jess had moved closer to Marshall now, her performance reaching new heights. She touched his arm gently, playing the role of the protective sister-in-law perfectly. The remaining guests began collecting their things, whispering among themselves. I watched my carefully built professional reputation crumble as colleagues avoided eye contact. One of Marshall's teacher friends paused near the door, looking back at him with pity. Ashley guided me toward the kitchen, away from the stairs. She pulled up Jess's Instagram profile, scrolling through months of posts. There were subtle hints I'd missed, breadcrumbs she'd been dropping about family secrets and difficult truths. She'd been setting this up since our reconciliation. Marshall appeared in the doorway, his principal's words clearly weighing on him. His wedding ring caught the light as his hand shook. Behind him, I could see Jess watching us, surrounded by sympathetic relatives. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but I caught the slight upturn of her lips when she thought no one was looking. My parents entered the kitchen, my father still pale from his recent recovery. My mother's face was a mask of disappointment. They'd already chosen their side, just like always. Dad started to speak, but another wave of panic hit me. I clutched the counter as my vision blurred. Ashley showed Marshall her phone, pointing out the suspicious timing and technical details of the posts. He studied them while Jess's voice carried from the other room, telling someone how she'd tried so hard to protect everyone. The baby shower decorations with their cheerful pastels and tiny footprints seemed to mock us from every corner. Marshall had to make a choice. His family was in the living room with Jess, his mother already suggesting he come stay with them. His career was on the line, with the principal's reaction making it clear this scandal would follow him to school. But he looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw him wrestling with doubt. He stepped toward me, then hesitated. That moment of uncertainty cut deeper than anything Jess had done. Even if he chose to believe me, I could see the crack in our foundation. Jess had planted a seed of doubt that would grow between us. Finally, Marshall crossed the kitchen and took my hand, but his grip was different, tentative. He helped me to the car while Ashley gathered our things. As we drove home in silence, my phone continued buzzing with notifications. The posts were spreading beyond our immediate circle. At home, I discovered the full extent of Jess's campaign. She'd been texting extended family members with updates about my breakdown at the shower. The messages painted me as unstable, a danger to my pregnancy. Each text was carefully crafted to seem concerned while planting seeds of doubt about my mental state. I switched to my phone's data plan, avoiding our home Wi-Fi. The posts were everywhere now. Jess had tagged mutual friends, ensuring maximum visibility. New comments appeared every few seconds. Some defended me, but others bought into her performance completely. She was still posting, adding updates about the incident at the shower. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Jess's car in our driveway. She'd brought our parents, arriving to perform the next act of her show. Marshall answered the door while I stayed in the living room, recording everything on my phone. Jess entered wearing a mask of concern, but I caught her texting someone quickly before pocketing her phone. She'd mentioned phase 2 in the message. My parents followed, my mother immediately launching into how Marshall deserved better than someone who would do this to him. They were worried about the baby's safety, she said, given my episodes. The word hung in the air like poison. Jess nodded sympathetically, adding how she'd noticed my erratic behavior for months, but had hoped I was getting help. Ashley had been busy. She'd screenshotted every post before Jess could delete anything, capturing metadata and original timestamps. She created a folder labeled Sister Psycho and started documenting the evidence. Her cybersecurity cousin had agreed to analyze the fake screenshots for digital manipulation. Marshall's phone rang. His principal was calling directly, expressing concerns about the family situation and how it might affect his professional judgment. I watched the color drain from Marshall's face as he realized his job was actually in jeopardy. The next morning brought fresh hell. Marshall's mother called, suggesting he stay with them until things settle. Her voice was gentle but firm. Jess's influence had reached his family overnight. She'd been making calls, spreading her version of events. I went through our text history, finding old messages from Jess during our reconciliation period. She'd asked seemingly innocent questions about Marshall's schedule, our routines, details about his work. Every question now looked sinister in hindsight. She'd been gathering intelligence for months. My phone rang. My boss's name appeared on the screen. She'd found Jess through our company's LinkedIn directory. Jess had called to express concern about how the pregnancy stress was affecting my work quality. She'd mentioned my mental health struggles and wondered if I should take leave. The email came an hour later, couched in supportive language about taking time for your health. It read like performance concerns disguised as care. My career was under attack from multiple angles. Marshall tried explaining everything to the school district's HR department, but they dismissed it as family drama. Despite his spotless record, they were concerned about community perception. The bureaucratic indifference cut deeper than outright hostility would have. I dove into Jess's social media history, scrolling back months. There it was, a clear pattern. Posts about protecting loved ones and difficult family truths had been appearing regularly. She'd been building a narrative that would make her accusations seem believable. The automated posting pattern suggested she'd used scheduling tools to plan everything. The depth of her preparation stunned me. She'd created fake accounts months ago, using photos stolen from my Instagram and public Facebook posts. She'd built entire believable histories for these accounts, complete with backdated posts and interactions. My digital life had been systematically hijacked. Marshall's teacher friends started avoiding him at school. Conversations stopped when he entered the cafeteria. His principal mentioned community concerns about his home situation in a staff meeting. The isolation was deliberate and effective. Looking at Jess's questions during our reconciliation, the pattern became clear. Every inquiry about Marshall's allergies, our schedules, our plans, had been reconnaissance. She'd been building her weapon while I'd been building trust. Ashley revealed she'd never trusted the reconciliation. She'd been documenting Jess's behavior since the wedding, keeping photos and screenshots. She showed me images from the baby shower, frame by frame. Jess's positioning, her timing, even her facial expressions had been calculated for maximum impact. When Jess tried to console Marshall privately, he refused to meet without me present. It was a small victory, but her frustrated expression when he declined revealed cracks in her performance. One of Marshall's teaching colleagues pulled him aside privately. Some details in the accusations didn't add up, he admitted. The union had advised him to keep distance, but he wanted Marshall to know not everyone believed the story. It was the first glimmer of hope in days. Jess called my pregnancy doctor's office the next morning. The receptionist later pulled me aside during my scheduled appointment, warning me that someone claiming to be my sister had tried to access my medical information. Office policy had prevented any disclosure, but she suggested I watch what I posted in online pregnancy forums. The violation attempt made my skin crawl. I recognized the pattern immediately. During wedding planning, Jess had weaponized every vulnerability. Now she was using my pregnancy the same way. The online pregnancy support groups I frequented became her new hunting ground. Anonymous posts appeared questioning whether women with severe mental health issues should be having children. The language matched Jess's writing style perfectly. Ashley intercepted Jess's attempt to extract information from her. Jess had called, voice dripping with fake concern, trying to get Ashley's perspective on my breakdown. Ashley hung up without engaging, recognizing the manipulation immediately. Her loyalty held firm despite the pressure. I started recording every family interaction on my phone, learning from Jess's digital warfare tactics. The recordings captured subtle threats and manipulations that would otherwise be dismissed as concern. My evidence folder grew daily. The police station visit proved futile. The officer behind the desk barely looked up as I explained the harassment. Family disputes required civil resolution, he said. No crime had been committed. The system that should protect people dismissed my situation as drama. Marshall's union representative admitted privately that the case seemed suspicious. The accusations didn't align with Marshall's character or history, but the institution needed to protect protect its reputation regardless of truth. Justice took a backseat to appearances. Through mutual friends' social media accounts, I discovered Jess had been tracking my movements. She knew which stores I visited, which doctors I saw, even which parks I walked through. The surveillance felt suffocating. My phone rang with an unexpected call. The wedding photographer from 2 years ago had seen the social media drama. She remembered Jess specifically requesting candid shots of me looking stressed or unstable during the wedding. At the time, she'd thought it odd. Now she understood the sinister purpose. She offered to provide those photos as evidence. Marshall's analytical teacher mind finally engaged fully. He mapped out the timeline of Jess's accusations on our kitchen whiteboard. The dates didn't align. The supposed affair couldn't have happened when Jess claimed. Geography alone disproved it. Her ex-husband had been in Seattle for work during the entire period she referenced. The stress began affecting my pregnancy. Sharp pains sent me to the emergency room at 2 in the morning. The baby was fine, but my blood pressure had spiked dangerously. Bed rest was mandatory. The doctor's concern was real, unlike Jess's manufactured worry. The hospital social worker noted the family dysfunction in my file, not because of anything Jess had said, but because the medical stress was clearly linked to external factors. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jess's fake concerns had created real medical issues. During a family dinner I wasn't invited to, Jess's mask slipped. While discussing my breakdown, she smirked, just for a moment, but Marshall's aunt caught it. The expression revealed the satisfaction beneath the performance. My parents, deep in their enabling pattern, missed it entirely. Jess overplayed her hand when she offered to help Marshall with legal separation paperwork. She'd already researched lawyers, she said, had pamphlets ready. The preparation was too thorough, too eager. Marshall finally saw what I'd known all along. This was her endgame. Marshall's investigation intensified. He discovered Jess's ex-husband had been in Seattle during the supposed affair, with airline tickets and hotel receipts to prove it. The geography made her entire story impossible. Armed with facts, Marshall's confidence in me solidified. Ashley's documentation revealed the true scope of Jess's campaign. The manipulation hadn't been impulsive protection. It was a months-long systematic attack. Every move had been calculated, every post timed for maximum damage. Marshall confronted his mother about her interference. He chose truth over the easy path of family harmony. The conversation was difficult, but necessary. His wedding vows meant more than family pressure. The crisis, rather than destroying us, strengthened our bond. Marshall and I faced each challenge together, growing closer through adversity. Jess had miscalculated. Her attack had backfired. I resisted every urge to publicly attack Jess. The high road was lonely but important. While she spread lies, I maintained dignity. The contrast became obvious to those paying attention. A direct confrontation with Jess revealed cracks in her story. When pressed for specific dates and details, she contradicted herself. Her lies required increasingly complex explanations. She doubled down instead of admitting the truth, but the desperation showed. Ashley's cybersecurity cousin arrived for dinner, laptop in hand. He demonstrated how the text message screenshots could be digitally manufactured. The editing software left digital fingerprints. Jess's evidence crumbled under technical analysis. My parents began questioning inconsistencies in Jess's narrative. Small details didn't add up. Their golden child stories conflicted with known facts. Doubt crept into their enabling pattern. Extended family members started sharing their own experiences with Jess's manipulations. Past incidents, dismissed as misunderstandings, formed a clear pattern. The collective realization was powerful. Marshall's teacher friends rallied when presented with evidence of the hoax. They'd sensed something was off about the accusations. Professional solidarity replaced imposed distance. Jess's lies became increasingly difficult to maintain. Each new fabrication contradicted previous claims. The web of deception required constant adjustment. Her stress showed in erratic behavior and conflicting statements. Text messages of apology arrived from Marshall's colleagues. They'd realized their mistake in believing the gossip. His reputation began recovering as truth spread through the school community. Jess's options narrowed daily. More people recognized her manipulation tactics. Her influence diminished as awareness grew. The careful construction of lies collapsed under scrutiny. My father witnessed Jess's true nature during a heated argument. She attacked my pregnancy, calling the baby a mistake. His protective instincts finally overrode years of favoritism. The golden child facade cracked before his eyes. Marshall's principal privately acknowledged the investigation had found no evidence supporting the accusations. The formal clearing of his name brought relief and vindication. Professional consequences evaporated as truth emerged. Ashley's cousin created a presentation showing how text screenshots could be faked. He demonstrated the exact techniques used in Jess's evidence. The visual proof was undeniable. Digital manipulation became obvious to everyone present. My next doctor's appointment brought a deadline. The stress was affecting the baby. Changes were mandatory for a healthy pregnancy. Medical necessity forced confrontations we'd been avoiding. During my pregnancy scare, medical staff witnessed Jess's behavior firsthand. Her complete lack of genuine empathy was obvious. She performed concern while checking her phone for social media responses. Healthcare workers exchanged knowing glances. Marshall realized protecting our family meant setting permanent boundaries. Some relationships couldn't be salvaged. The extended family members who believed Jess's lies would have to be cut off. Painful but necessary decisions were made. My handling of the situation contrasted sharply with Jess's desperate manipulations. Grace under pressure revealed character differences. Maturity gaps became undeniable to observers. Friends and family began rejecting Jess's narrative. Contradictory evidence mounted. Her version of events stopped making sense to rational people. Support shifted steadily to our side. Truth emerged through persistent documentation. Every lie was countered with facts. Consistent honesty defeated elaborate deception. Patient revelation of evidence swayed opinions. Marshall's job security was officially restored. The school board dismissed all accusations as unfounded. Initial victory felt sweet but premature. Jess's desperate expression promised revenge. Jess threatened self-harm if the family abandoned her. The manipulation was transparent but effective on our parents. Then she accidentally mentioned she'd researched methods online the week before. The planning revealed the threat as another performance. Natural consequences found Jess as friends distanced themselves. Learning about her systematic lies destroyed trust. Social isolation became her reality. She'd created her own prison. Our marriage emerged stronger from the coordinated attack. Surviving Jess's worst brought us closer. Trust deepened through shared adversity. We'd weathered the storm together. Unexpected support came from Marshall's students' parents. They recognized a good teacher under unfair attack. The community rallied organically. Genuine relationships proved stronger than manufactured drama. Family members gathered for an intervention-style meeting. Accumulated evidence was presented systematically. The full pattern of manipulation became undeniable. Truth confronted lies directly. My parents finally acknowledged their enabling behavior. Years of excuses and favoritism had created a monster. The painful recognition brought tears and apologies. Change seemed possible for the first time. Multiple witnesses corroborated my experiences over the years. Stories aligned perfectly. The systematic abuse pattern was validated. Jess's victims found their voices together. Written documentation supported every claim about Jess's behavior. Text messages, emails, social media posts formed an undeniable trail. Paper evidence couldn't be dismissed as paranoia. The final piece of evidence shocked everyone. Jess's search history showed she'd researched how to destroy someone's reputation months before the baby shower. Premeditation was proven beyond doubt. The family reached a verdict. Jess needed professional help and extended time out from family events. Boundaries would be enforced. Consequences were finally real. Jess's counterstrike was predictable. She claimed I was poisoning the family against her. The projection reached absurd levels. Her emotional instability became obvious to everyone present. Some extended family members wavered under Jess's emotional manipulation. Old patterns reasserted briefly. The support network showed cracks. Testing revealed true allies. I stood alone momentarily as even Marshall questioned certain family members' loyalty. Strength came from solitude. Independence proved more powerful than dependent relationships. The decision to document everything for a potential restraining order faced family resistance. Legal action against family was taboo, but safety trumped tradition. The choice was clear. That decision triggered Jess's complete psychological breakdown. Consequences had never been real before. The golden child privilege was ending. Reality hit hard. The family meeting happened 3 days later at my parents' house. Everyone filed into the living room where I'd blown out birthday candles 20 years ago. The same room where Jess had first stolen my moment. Now we'd gathered to confront decades of manipulation. Marshall's Aunt Catherine volunteered to moderate. She'd witnessed Jess's mask slip during that dinner and wanted answers. My father sat in his recliner, still recovering but determined to participate. My mother perched on the sofa arm, her usual confidence shaken. Jess arrived late, of course. She'd styled herself as the victim, wearing no makeup and a wrinkled sweater. The performance started before she even sat down. She clutched tissues and avoided eye contact, playing the persecuted sister perfectly. Catherine opened with ground rules. Everyone would present evidence without interruption. Facts only. No emotional manipulation. Jess immediately objected, claiming this was an ambush. Catherine shut her down with a look that could freeze water. Ashley began our presentation. She'd organized everything chronologically, starting with the wedding photos. The photographer's images showed Jess directing me toward unflattering angles, positioning herself prominently in every shot. Frame by frame, the sabotage became undeniable. Next came the baby shower evidence. Ashley's documentation included screenshots with timestamps, showing the pre-scheduled posts. Her cousin Nathan demonstrated the digital manipulation techniques on his laptop. He highlighted the editing artifacts in Jess's fake text messages, explaining how the fonts didn't match authentic messaging apps. Marshall presented his timeline analysis. He'd mapped every claim against verifiable facts. Flight records, credit card statements, and work schedules proved Jess's ex-husband couldn't have been involved in any affair. The supposed meetings were geographically impossible. My medical records came next. The emergency room visits, the blood pressure spikes, the pregnancy complications all traced directly to Jess's escalating attacks. The hospital social worker's notes confirmed family stress as the primary factor. Real medical consequences from manufactured drama. Extended family members shared their stories. Cousin Victoria revealed how Jess had sabotaged her engagement party years ago. Uncle John described mysterious rumors that had damaged his business relationships. Pattern after pattern emerged, all pointing to the same source. Throughout the presentation, Jess's performance intensified. She sobbed, hyperventilated, and clutched her chest dramatically. But when she thought no one was watching, her eyes were dry and calculating. Catherine caught every slip, every momentary break in character. My parents' reactions evolved visibly. My mother's face went from skeptical to horrified as evidence mounted. My father gripped his armchair, processing decades of manipulation he'd enabled. The golden child illusion shattered piece by piece. When our presentation ended, Jess exploded. She accused us of conspiracy, of ganging up on her, of twisting innocent mistakes into malicious acts. But her counter-arguments fell apart immediately. She couldn't explain the search history, the timestamps, or the digital evidence. Then she made a critical error. In her desperation, she pulled out her phone to show proof of my instability. But she accidentally revealed her notes app, where she'd been typing observations about family members' reactions during the meeting. Real-time manipulation planning, exposed by her own frantic fumbling. Catherine asked Jess directly about the fake affair posts. Jess tried deflecting, claiming she'd been protecting Marshall from a truth I'd confessed. But when pressed for details about this supposed confession, she couldn't maintain consistency. The story changed with each telling. Marshall's mother, who'd arrived halfway through, watched her son defend our marriage with quiet pride. She'd been swayed by Jess's initial performance, but couldn't deny the evidence before her. She moved to sit beside Marshall, a silent show of support. The room fell silent as my father spoke. His voice was weak but steady as he acknowledged the years of favoritism, the enabled behavior, the damage done. He looked at Jess with profound disappointment, seeing her clearly for the first time. Jess's final manipulation attempt was her most desperate. She threatened to harm herself if the family abandoned her, claiming she couldn't live with such cruel rejection. But Ashley had prepared for this. She presented screenshots of Jess researching sewer slide threats as manipulation tactics the week before. The evidence was overwhelming. Jess had planned even her final card. The family's collective realization was palpable. This wasn't mental illness or misunderstanding. This was calculated, deliberate cruelty spanning decades. Catherine called for a family decision. The vote was unanimous. Jess would be excluded from all family events indefinitely. She needed professional help before any reconciliation could be considered. More importantly, I would be protected from further contact. Jess's reaction was volcanic. She screamed accusations, threatened lawsuits, promised to destroy everyone who'd betrayed her, but her threats rang hollow. She'd played all her cards and lost. The power she'd wielded through manipulation was gone. Marshall and I filed for a restraining order the next morning. The evidence package Ashley had compiled made the process straightforward. The judge reviewed the digital manipulation proof, the medical records, and the pattern of escalating harassment. The order was granted immediately. Jess was served that afternoon. She had to surrender any photos of me, delete all social media posts referencing me, and maintain a 500-foot distance. The legal boundary made our protection official and enforceable. Marshall's school community rallied once the truth spread. Parents who'd initially distanced themselves apologized for believing gossip. His principal formally apologized for the misunderstanding. His teaching reputation emerged stronger, tested by fire but proven solid. My workplace situation resolved similarly. Once my boss understood the orchestrated nature of the attacks, she rescinded the performance concerns. She even offered additional maternity leave, recognizing the stress I'd endured. My professional reputation recovered fully. The extended family divided naturally. Those who'd experienced Jess's manipulation firsthand supported us completely. A few distant relatives who only knew her public persona remained skeptical, but their opinions no longer mattered. The core family unit had chosen truth. My parents began therapy to address their enabling patterns. The therapist specialized in family dynamics and narcissistic abuse. They committed to breaking the cycles that had allowed Jess's behavior to flourish unchecked for decades. Ashley received vindication for years of skepticism. Her meticulous documentation had saved us. She'd seen through Jess's masks when others were fooled. Her loyalty and foresight proved invaluable. True friendship had conquered manufactured drama. 3 months later, Jess violated the restraining order. She appeared at my prenatal appointment, claiming coincidence. Security removed her while I documented everything. The violation strengthened our legal protection and demonstrated her inability to respect boundaries. The baby arrived healthy despite the pregnancy stress. Marshall cut the umbilical cord with steady hands, the same hands that had trembled holding fake evidence months earlier. Our daughter entered a world where truth had triumphed over lies. My parents met their granddaughter without Jess present. They'd learned to celebrate moments without managing her reactions. The joy was uncomplicated, free from performance and manipulation. They were learning to be grandparents without enabling dysfunction. Jess's ex-husband reached out after hearing about the false accusations. He documented his own experiences with her manipulation during their marriage. His evidence added another layer to the pattern, confirming the systematic nature of her behavior. The family's new dynamic took time to establish. Holiday planning no longer revolved around Jess's demands. Celebrations became genuine rather than performances. The absence of constant drama felt strange but healing. Peace replaced chaos. Marshall's trust never wavered after that initial moment of doubt. We'd survived the worst attack imaginable on our marriage. The foundation Jess had tried to crack had instead been reinforced. Our bond was tested and proven unbreakable. 6 months after the confrontation, we learned Jess had moved across the country. She'd found new targets in a city where her reputation was unknown. The cycle would likely continue elsewhere, but our family was protected. Distance provided final safety. My anxiety, which Jess had exploited for decades, became manageable. Without constant triggers and manipulations, my mental health improved dramatically. The medication dosage decreased. Panic attacks became rare. Healing was possible without her presence. Our daughter grew surrounded by honest relationships. She'd never experienced the gaslighting and favoritism that had marked my childhood. The cycle was broken. She'd know her worth wasn't dependent on someone else's manipulation. Marshall returned to teaching with renewed purpose. He implemented anti-bullying programs with deeper understanding of psychological manipulation. His personal experience informed his professional practice. Students benefited from his hard-won wisdom. I returned to work with clearer boundaries. The experience had taught me to document everything, trust my instincts, and maintain professional distances. My design work flourished without constant personal drama draining creative energy. The restraining order held firm. Jess tested it occasionally through third parties or fake social media accounts, but we'd learned her patterns. Each attempt was documented and reported. Legal protection proved more effective than family enabling ever had. My parents sold the family home. Too many toxic memories embedded in its walls. They downsized to a smaller place, symbolic of their simplified life without managing Jess's chaos. Fresh start in a space unmarked by manipulation. The story spread through our community naturally, not through gossip or social media, but through quiet conversations among those who'd witnessed the truth. Other victims of similar manipulation reached out, finding solidarity and validation. Marshall and I renewed our vows on our 5th anniversary. The ceremony was small, genuine, and completely ours. No stolen moments, no sabotage, no performances, just two people who'd survived the worst together, promising to protect their peace. Looking forward, we maintained vigilance without paranoia. Jess had taught us valuable lessons about boundaries, documentation, and trusting instincts. We'd emerged stronger, wiser, and surrounded by relationships tested through crisis. The family photos on our walls told the real story. Genuine smiles, unguarded moments, celebrations without shadows. Jess's absence was the presence of peace. We'd reclaimed our narrative from her distortions. Our daughter took her first steps in a home filled with truth. No gaslighting, no manipulation, no golden child dynamics. She'd grow knowing love wasn't conditional on performance. The generational trauma ended with her innocence protected. Marshall's career advanced naturally without manufactured scandals. He became department head, respected for integrity proven under pressure. The false accusations had ultimately highlighted his character rather than destroying it. I started mentoring young designers, especially those dealing with workplace harassment. My experience became a teaching tool for recognizing and documenting manipulation. Professional growth emerged from personal trauma. The extended family found new equilibrium. Holiday gatherings were smaller but warmer. Quality replaced quantity in relationships. Those who'd stood by truth formed tighter bonds. Authentic connection flourished without toxic interference. My panic attacks, once Jess's weapon, became rare occurrences. Therapy addressed the roots she'd exploited. Medication became minimal. Mental health improved dramatically without constant psychological warfare. Healing was real and lasting. 2 years later, we received word that Jess had been arrested for fraud in her new city. She'd escalated from family manipulation to financial crimes. The pattern had continued without family protection. Natural consequences had finally found her. We chose not to follow her legal troubles. That chapter was closed. Our energy focused on building rather than defending. The best revenge was a life well lived without her shadow. Success through authenticity rather than manipulation. Our second child arrived in peace. No orchestrated drama, no baby shower ambushes, no social media attacks, just normal pregnancy experiences with typical challenges. The contrast highlighted how abnormal our first experience had been. Marshall and I built our life on truth's foundation. Every challenge was faced honestly, every celebration genuine. We'd learned that real relationships could withstand truth while false ones crumbled beneath it. Jess had inadvertently taught us to value authenticity. The restraining order became permanent. Legal protection codified what family boundaries should have established years earlier. The system that had initially dismissed our concerns ultimately provided lasting safety, justice through persistence and documentation. Our home became a haven of honesty. Children grew hearing age-appropriate truth rather than convenient lies. Problems were solved through communication rather than manipulation. The patterns that had enabled Jess stopped with us. Years passed peacefully. Milestones were celebrated without sabotage. Achievements were recognized without diminishment. Love was expressed without conditions. The life Jess had tried to destroy flourished in her absence. My parents found their own peace. They'd confronted their failures, made amends, and changed their patterns. Their relationship with their grandchildren was healthy and boundaried. They'd chosen growth over comfortable denial. The family tree was pruned of dysfunction. Some branches were lost, relatives who couldn't accept truth over comfortable lies, but the remaining tree grew stronger, nourished by honesty rather than poisoned by manipulation. Quality over quantity in family bonds. Marshall often reflected on that moment of doubt in the kitchen. He'd almost fallen for Jess's elaborate deception, but truth had won because we'd faced it together. Our marriage was defined by that choice to trust evidence over performance. I sometimes wondered about Jess's victims in her new city, but warning strangers wasn't our responsibility. We'd protected our family and documented everything for legal records. Others would have to learn their own lessons about manipulation. The scars remained but faded. Trust came easier with practice. Boundaries held firm through consistency. We'd survived psychological warfare and emerged victorious through truth, documentation, and unified resistance. Peace was earned, not given.